What's up guys, today we have a very special video. With the removal of Spear of Shojin, our latest Ultimate Renekton guide has gone a little bit out of date, so today we're going to be updating you on exactly how you need to be playing without Spear of Shojin now in Season 10. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Panther, a challenger player on the NA server, and I'm widely regarded as the best Renekton in the world. I've been spamming this champion for years and have personally developed a lot of the mechanics that you see on Renekton today. I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what you need to be doing in order to dominate the laning phase, transition into a strong mid game, and take control of the game. Now, if you haven't already, make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of guides, all done by challenger players just like me, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We've got courses both on the 5 fundamental roles, as well as champion specific courses. So if that is something that interests you, then make sure to check us out using the link in the description below. Now, first up with Renekton, we're going to be talking about right away in the laning phase, how you want to be gaining a lead as soon as possible, and this is through abusing your level 2 advantage. With New Conqueror, Renekton has one of the strongest level 2s in the entire game, and there are very few champions that can actually match him or even survive his burst. If you are opting for Ignite, his level 2 is that much more potent. So how are we going to abuse this level 2? And, well, the answer to that is, it kind of depends on what elo you're playing in. In lower elos, some players aren't going to know when level 2 happens, so you're going to be able to get away with taking Q level 1 and W level 2, walking up melee to the enemy champion, Wing them, Qing them, igniting them, getting some autos, and that will result in a kill. However, there's a way to consistently get level 2 kills, even in Grandmaster Plus on Renekton. The way that I get my level 2 solo kills is I'll start E, level 1 on Renekton. I'll use my E level 1 to farm the first 3 creeps in the first wave, while using it to dash towards the enemy champion. The enemy champion is going to be preoccupied trying to farm their first 3 creeps, and they're not going to expect you to start your E. This means you can dash into them, get 1 free auto, and dash out, landing a pretty heavy trade at just level 1. Now, if you are opting to start E on Renekton, then you need to play very safe when your E is on cooldown. Remember, it's one of the longest cooldowns in the game for a basic ability, so you have to respect that. If you are able to, then walk up to the minions and slowly auto them. You don't want to auto the minions too quickly, because if you do that, then you're going to kill the wave too fast, and your E won't be off cooldown by the time you hit level 2. Your main focuses for your level 2 is you need to have your E off of cooldown when you pop level 2, and you want to have 50 Fury. If you're able to do these 2 things, then you're going to be walking away with a kill at least 75% of the time. Remember that level 2 happens after you have killed 7 minions. This means after the first minion in the second wave dies, you're going to be hitting level 2, and you need to be using it immediately. Now, if you aren't comfortable with starting E level 1 as Renekton, you can also use W and still have this strategy pay off, but it's going to be a little bit more dangerous because you won't have an escape mechanic, so if you trade into a champion that beats you at level 1 with your W, you might end up dying at level 1 before you can pull anything off. Now, if you weren't able to walk away with a kill level 2, that's okay, we still have the level 3 power spike where we can look for a kill as well. The level 3 power spike for Renekton is so strong because you're probably going to be hitting it before the enemy champion, and it gives you some sort of sustain and more fury generation. You might be wondering, well, what should I be doing with this fury? What ability do I want to be empowering, especially early on into the game? And most people empower Q, but this is wrong. You only want to be using empowered Q if you need to sustain yourself back up, or if the enemy champion is out of range for you to dash and then empowered W them. In the laning phase, you never want to use an empowered E because this is going to be a complete waste of your fury. It's always going to be either empowered W if you're able to land that, and if not, then it's going to be empowered Q. Okay, but what if you don't have enough fury to trade with the enemy champion? Say you're sitting on 20 fury, how should you be ordering your skills then? In this case, you want to dash through the entire enemy minion wave, hitting the enemy champion if possible, Q so that you hit the enemy champion and the minion wave, and this should give you enough fury in order to have a empowered W. If this doesn't give you enough fury for an empowered W, then it's time for you to make a decision. First, you need to determine whether or not going for an extended trade is even going to be beneficial for you. If you're playing against something like Jax or Darius, these champions are just going to beat you in an extended trade, so it's not even worth trying to use your W on them. You should just dash back to safety. If you're playing against something pretty passive, however, like Cho'Gath for example, then it is entirely okay for you to use your second dash into Cho'Gath as well to give you enough fury for an empowered W. Remember that a 50 Fury W is going to fully stack your Conqueror, meaning not very many things are going to beat you in an extended trade. Usually when this is the case, then I'll auto trade until my Q comes back off cooldown, use my Q, and then decide whether or not I'm going to go for the kill or just back off. Remember that your W and your E are very long cooldowns, so usually in an extended trade, you just want to look for your second Q and then back off afterwards. Now the last thing that I want to talk about is using your ultimate during an all-in. When using your ultimate, you never want to do what is called a dry cast. Dry casting your ultimate is when you just lead with your ultimate without canceling it into anything, ulting before doing anything. This is very bad. You never want to do this on Renekton. If someone sees you just cast your ultimate on Renekton, they're probably just going to walk away from you, and it's not going to achieve anything for you. For this reason, you always want to cancel your ultimate with another ability, or use your ultimate while in a brush. The best cancel for Renekton's ultimate is Empowered W into your R. This will completely mask your W's animation and make it so you're standing still for a lot less time. The timing for this is going to take a lot of practice, so I definitely recommend practicing on a dummy in the practice tool. Now, if you are able to follow these rules and trade patterns on Renekton, you should be able to walk away from the laning phase with at least a few kills under your belt. But remember, we don't have Spirit of Shojin anymore, so what should we be looking to do in the mid game? We can't just look to 1v4 anymore. While no, 1v4ing is no longer going to be an option, you can still definitely look to 1v1 and split push, and even 1v2. I've transitioned my build from a heavy bruiser build to more of a attack speed based split push build, and I've been seeing a ton of success with that, but I'll cover that a little bit later on in the video. In the mid game, you want to be split pushing whenever you can, but remember that you also need to show up for objectives. You can't just ignore things like dragons and barons. If you take teleport, then you can split push until your team starts the objective, in which case you can teleport to the objective, let's say dragon in this case, and then you can fight with your team at dragon, secure the dragon, and then go back to split pushing. If you take ignite though, it's going to be a little bit different because you're going to have to walk to the objective preemptively, meaning you're going to be giving up pressure in that side lane. Whenever this is the case for me, and I have ignite on Renekton, I just look to flash on a carry and one-shot them, making sure the fight is over before it can even begin, so we're able to just take the dragon quickly. Remember that as a split pusher, you want objectives like Baron and Dragon to take as little time as possible if you are grouped with the team. If you're off in the side lane, then it's fine, it can take as long as it needs to, because that just means that there's going to be less people around you for longer, giving you more opportunity to take towers. Now, the main difference between an average and a great Renekton in the mid game is their ability to 1v2 in the side lane. Now, if you do get ganked by the enemy mid laner or jungler in the mid game, the most important thing to remember is to stay calm and play the fight slowly. Your greatest weapon is having your cooldowns up and fury available, so you don't want to be spending those immediately as soon as you see somebody. Only use your cooldowns when you know that you can kill somebody with it. Remember that fury and cooldowns are going to be a huge deterrent for any assassins or squishy champions to jump on you. Kite out without using your cooldowns for as long as possible, and then once the squishy target jumps on you, blow your cooldowns on that player so that you can one-shot them, and then you can focus on the second player again. If you just blow all of your cooldowns on the champion that's tanking you, then you're never going to pull off a 1v2. Successful 1v2s are all about timing and managing your resources, that's fury and cooldowns, properly. You also need to be open to the idea of just walking away. Sometimes opting not to fight is the best option because your team's going to be able to do things elsewhere on the map. Now, once late game does come around, your options are going to be pretty limited. You can split push, or if your flash is up, then you can look to flash on one of the enemy carries and one-shot them in a team fight. With the removal of Spear of Shojin, Renekton definitely does not scale as well into the late game as he did before. For this reason, you want to use his dominance in the early and mid game to close out the game as fast as possible. So now you know exactly what you need to be doing at every stage in the game, so let's talk about some runes and a build so you can get right into these games. For runes, pretty much every single game you're going to want Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Tenacity if they have any CC, or if they don't, Legend Alacrity, Last Stand, Resolve with Bone Plating, and Overgrowth. In every single game, you're going to want to rush Cleaver. This is regardless of who you're playing against. It's going to give you health, it's going to give you CDR, and it's going to give you attack damage and movement speed, all things that are very, very important to the Croc. Now, for your second item, I like to look for a Blade of the Ruined King. Blade of the Ruined King is one of the best items on Renekton since his W applies the passive 3 separate times. He also really loves the active for either escaping or chasing down squishy targets. Now the stats that gives are okay, they're not anything super special, but he is mainly getting this item for the active and the passive. After Blade of the Ruined King, I like to opt for a Sanguine Blade. This gives me an insane amount of attack speed, I've got a good amount of lifesteal now with Blade of the Ruined King and Sanguine Blade, and it gives me lethality, one of Renekton's favorite stats. Now if you are playing against squishy targets and the enemy team doesn't have a single tank, then you can opt for Sanguine Blade before Blade of the Ruined King, and that is perfectly okay. Now for my last two items, I prefer Asterix Gauge and a GA. These two items give you the health and the resistances that you need in order to survive a lot more champions in the side lane once you get later on into the game. If you are a player that itemizes Tiamat early and uses Tiamat as a crutch, then you can swap out your GA or your Asterix Gauge for a Titanic Hydra. For boots, most of the time I'm going to want Ninja Tabby since I already take plenty of tenacity in my runes. Now there are a few other items that I want to mention that do work well on Renekton, but you're going to have to pick and choose what items to replace here. First up is Youmuu's Ghostblade. This is a really strong item on Renekton because, like I said before, he really likes lethality and movement speed. This item gives both and a decent amount of AD. Next up is Hex Drinker, something that I will frequently rush into harder AP matchups like Rumble. Finally is Wit's End. Now this is an item that I really don't like personally, simply because it's just not as good as Hex Drinker in my opinion. I will pretty much only go Wit's End when I need Magic Resist, but I also need Asterix Gauge. Finally, Death's Dance is a pretty good item on him, but there just really isn't any room for the item in his current build. Also, Death's Dance is pretty expensive compared to the rest of the items that are in his build, so it kinda just gets left out. As you can see, I'm definitely opting for more of an on-hit build at the moment. Items like Blade of the Ruined King, Titanic Hydra, and Sanguine Blade are all going to give me huge amounts of attack speed and on-hit damage, which will allow me to 1v1 pretty much any champion, given the fact that my W is going to apply on-hit effects 3 times when empowered. I'm going to be stacking Conqueror instantly with this, healing an absurd amount of damage, and there are very, very few champions that can deal with it. Now, that is just about all that I have for you for today's video on our Season 10 updated Renekton guide. If you're looking for more videos similar to this one, maybe a top lane essentials course, then you should check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of guides, all done by challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles, as well as champion-specific courses. So if that is something that interests you, then make sure to check it out using the link in the description below. As always, I'm Panther, I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.